Hi and welcome to today's video, which is part of our writing series. Today we're talking about how to effectively use a thesaurus. So the first question we need to answer is, what is a thesaurus? It sounds like a dinosaur, but it's not. It's simply a dictionary which contains synonyms for source words. Synonyms are words which share the same meaning as each other, and antonyms are words which mean the opposite. And you'll often find in a thesaurus an extensive list of synonyms for a word, but also some antonyms to help you understand that word better as well. Here in front of me I have my trusty thesaurus. I've had it for 20 years, but I also use thesaurus.com, and there is a shortcut in Word in the version that I use, which is Shift F7, and that takes me to the thesaurus. I think these days you can right click on words as well when you're using Word, and it will give you a list of options that you might want to use, synonyms that you might want to use for the words that you're typing. So how does a thesaurus work? Well, just like in a normal dictionary, you look up your source word in alphabetical order. On your website, you just look up the search term, and then from the list of options that you're provided with, you choose the one that you'd like to use. It sounds fairly simple, but that last step, choosing the right word, is by far the most complicated part of using a thesaurus. Let's take a look. Not every synonym for a source word is going to work as a synonym in the context that you're writing about. So not every word is equally good in context. For example, we look at this sentence on the screen here. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was good. Which word's a bit boring in that sentence? Perhaps good. We might want to make our writing shine a little more by using a more descriptive word than good, choosing a better adjective. I went to thesaurus.com and I typed in the word good, and here were the first 10 options. Let's have a look at these options in my sentence. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was acceptable. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was excellent. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was exceptional. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was favourable. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was great. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was marvellous. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was positive. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was satisfactory. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was satisfying. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was superb. Well, some of those options really don't convey the idea that the meal was good. For example, it was satisfactory suggests that it met some expected standard. That's probably not the right word to use in this context. Maybe if it filled Johnny up and made him feel nice and full, you might want to use number 9. The meal was satisfying. Number 5, great. Probably not a great improvement from the word we already have, which is good. So you might want to have a look at the words that are listed and think about which one fits best for the type of meaning you want to convey. One cool thing about using a thesaurus is that if you find another word that you then think, oh, it's close, but it's not quite what I'm looking for, you can look up that word and make that your source word and see if you can find synonyms for that word and sort of branch off in that way to try and find more specific synonyms for the type of idea you're trying to convey. The other thing you might want to do when you get to this point is say to yourself, well, these words are good synonyms for the word good, but maybe what I'm really trying to get at is something more about flavour. I might try looking up the word yummy. So I did that. I went to thesaurus.com again, and this time I typed in yummy as my source word instead of good. Now I have this list of 10 words. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was appetizing. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was appealing. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was delectable. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was delicious. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was heavenly. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was inviting. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was savoury. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was tantalizing. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was tasty. Johnny gobbled down the meal. It was tempting. Now, some of those words suggest that Johnny hasn't eaten the food yet. that it looks like it's going to be yummy if he eats it. It's tempting him, or it's tantalizing him, or it's inviting him. We're talking about how he feels about the food after he's gobbled it down, so we don't want those synonyms. But delicious sounds like a good choice. Tasty is probably a good one too. Maybe not savoury, depending on what the meal is. And it's a bit more of a factual statement. It was savoury. Doesn't have much value attached as to whether that was a positive or a negative thing. So when you're looking at the list of words, you can have a look there and pick one that suits your meaning the best. So my top tips for using a thesaurus, as we've just gone through, number one is definitely to make sure that your choice makes sense in your context. Too many times I see students who've simply clicked on the thesaurus, chosen the first word to make their writing seem more interesting, and undermine the entire meaning of their sentence or even a whole paragraph because of the poor choice. So make sure it makes sense in your context. Number two, synonyms are great for coming up with alliteration, which is where two or more words start with the same letter, or coming up with catchy titles. For example, yummy food might become delicious delicacies if I looked up food and found the word delicacy. And then more precise word choices. So instead of saying running quickly or ran quickly, I could say raced. These can help bring the word count down as well. So choosing some precise words and using the thesaurus to help you find good synonyms can help you with that as well. Synonyms can expand your vocabulary. I have a rule for my students that they're not allowed to use the thesaurus to find a synonym or to use a synonym for a word that they find if they don't already understand the source word that they're looking up and then the synonym they want to use. So that means that you should never be using words that you don't understand in your writing. Does this mean that you're stuck with the vocabulary you have right now? No, it does not. If there's a new word in something that you read, look it up. If there's a word that pops up when you're in your list of synonyms that you might want to use but you're not sure what it means, look it up. Take that as an opportunity to learn that new word. And then when you understand its meaning, you can use it in your writing. There's nothing wrong with using big words and expanding your vocabulary and trying new words in your writing. Not critical of that at all. It's just making sure you've taken the time to understand the word before you use it. And then the other thing is that sometimes you can get bogged down in using a thesaurus to find the perfect word for every sentence as you're writing. My advice is that you write for meaning first. Get your ideas down on the page. Use the adjective which comes to mind in the first place. And then when you're editing, go back and use the thesaurus to change it. Or if you find yourself being quite repetitive, use the thesaurus then to help you find some different ways of saying something that you're saying, or a different way of describing something as an adjective or a noun that you might want to change, so that you're not constantly repeating the same thing over and over in a paragraph. But do that at the end once your ideas are down so you don't lose your train of thought, because it's very easy to spend a lot of time searching for one perfect word, and you might find that you've actually wasted the time you could have spent writing a whole paragraph or a whole page just looking for one perfect word. So beware of that trap. Use the thesaurus in your editing if you're the kind of person who might fall into that trap. I hope that's helpful. Go forth, write interesting sentences. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Thanks guys. Bye.